So what's going on? It got my boy Heloise Wonderweiss. We're about to talk about that Final Fantasy 14 Pandemonium Savage tier for Asphodelos. Yo, man, this was quite a tier, wouldn't you say?
I mean, it was something.
You said it was something. For me personally, going into it, this was my first Savage tier, so it
Mm,
was just pretty fun to do, just going through each fight and how different each fight was.
yeah.
So I guess we'll just talk about them in each part. So let's talk about first circle. What were your thoughts on the first circle?
Yo, that turn is speaking garbage, dog. That turn is literally like okay. So the reason why I don't like one at all is because I play tank, and that the tank busters that they have that push you back are like the most unnecessary pushbacks I've ever seen in my entire life. And there's literally just no reason why it needs to push you back. Like everyone just like invulns it or tank swaps anyway. I had heard some people talk about how you're supposed to have like one tank in front of the other and both of you take damage or something, but it's just like I don't know
Wait, does
that
that prevent the knockback?
I don't know. I've never tried it because literally nobody does that.
Oh, that is true. And also, like when you look at the mechanic, it doesn't even that like a mechanic like that. In my head, wouldn't conceptually think that would be what you would do to resolve it. Because,
Yeah,
like, if I was going to that fight blind, right, and get hit by that, I'll be like, okay, let me try arm's length. I see arm's length
yeah,
doesn't work, so then I'll be like, okay, I'll just just stand closer to the boss, right, and then you just
exactly.
resolve it that way.
Yeah. And if even if it does stop the knockback, both the tanks take so much more extra no needed damage by both taking those. And then like if it's flare, then both of them are gonna take the flare. Like it's whack.
Yeah,
I
and
just
that's even worse than the party finder saying too, right? Because let's
yeah.
say it's the flare. You swap for the flare, and the other tank is too close to you, so you just die because you're too
Hmm.
close to the flare.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not a fan of that. I don't really I mean the clock thing is kind of whatever to me. I feel like it was probably better if you were one of the few groups that did it completely blind. But as soon as you know what to do, you literally just stand there for that mechanic. So it's just like I don't know. It's that part's boring. Intemperance is kind of interesting, but even that you pretty much only have like what, like two people swapping, and that's it. And everybody else just goes to the same spot. So I don't know.
Right.
That turn is just not. It's not the favorite at all. I don't know. What about you?
My thoughts on the turn. So I played that turn both as a healer and as a tank. So
Mm,
from the healer perspective of it, I actually like it a lot in the sense that there isn't much extra shit I have to do
mm,
because it's like when how for intemp, right? How you have the both healers are take the ones at the sides, right? Left and right.
yeah.
That one is like very simple to do as a healer. So like as far as responsibility goes, the outgoing damage in the fight isn't really too much. And the only time I ever felt it getting kind of too much is during intemp. But aside from
Yeah.
intemp, it's not really that hard to heal through. So you kind of just like you could like as a healer in that fight, you basically just only use your alt GCDs. You don't have to
Yeah.
care about much
Yeah.
anything else really. So you could kind of just pop through it and not give a fuck about it after. I think that that's the one fight where it's just literally everyone just greased the tanks really hard in that fight. It's like you see it
Yeah.
for intemp, double damage down. See, this the weird thing I feel about intemp is how it makes me wonder how did the devs envision intemp working?
Uh-huh.
Because to me, the way I envisioned it was that everyone would just resolve their own debuff and not care about the other person. But
Mm,
we found out later on that if you want to resolve the debuff with no one getting damage down, like two people have to swap with the tank.
yeah.
And it's like, why is it that that's something that's specifically for the tank rather than it being like I guess I would say like everyone actually having to do something because at that point it's
Hmm.
just Did the other DPS, do what they're supposed to do properly so that the tank can not get a damage down?
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of that is an interesting thought, is how they actually want it to be like completed, because it's kind of a weird mechanic that they only really like that the tank is really the only one that has to deal with stuff like that. I mean, I guess like a range has to as well, but
Yeah.
that's about it.
I think it would have been a lot cooler if they made the mechanic in such a way that, so you see how, so the first cubes go off, and then for the second cube part, I think it would have been okay if they made it so that you didn't need the north and the south squares to be handled by someone for the mechanic to resolve with no one dying, rather than
Yeah.
having to force someone to be on there, because then that means, people just say, oh, tanks are already on there, let them stay there, make it easier for everyone else.
Yeah. I don't know. That fight's just kind of whack to me, to be honest.
I think if they took out the way they did the tank busters in that fight, it would have been a lot more fun for the tank POV side of things.
Yeah. I mean, if they did that, like, as much as I hate it, it's literally the only thing that makes that fight interesting for me, because everything else is just so standard. I mean,
Yeah,
like,
it's
besides,
like you're kind of basically doing the same thing everyone else is doing, right? It almost doesn't
yeah,
even feel like a savage fight. It feels more like an extreme in a sense, right?
yeah. Like, I wish the one thing that I'm doing different didn't screw me over, but I guess I can say at least I'm doing something slightly different than everybody else, who's just essentially hitting like a dummy.
Yeah,
So,
I do get that a lot, especially if you ever, go into the speed runs or the parties for it. It really does feel like a dummy boss if
it's
you're in a party with people
yeah.
that actually know the fight. Because, if you ever go into PF, I don't know how much of that fight you've done in PF. All I can say is that everyone in their mutter, for some odd reason, I don't know what it is, it's either the mistakes happen during fourfold or during intem. And it just so
Mhm.
happens that those are the two mechanics that will actually kill the whole party, right? If someone messes up,
Yeah,
so.
pretty much.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
when you think about it, that's all people really have trouble with in that fight. Even, to this day, it's like we're like, what is it, like 12 weeks? Is it
Mm.
12 weeks since the tier came out?
I don't know actually.
Tier came out on January 1st, right? Not first, the 4th, right? Yeah, it came out on the
Uh,
4th. So that means we went from January to February, from February to March. So I think this is week
I think
10 then. I think it's week 10. Week 10 into
10.
week
I think
11.
it's 11.
Oh, okay,
11.
yeah. So
I have
11
I
into
have three
12.
8 books. So
Right.
yeah.
So it's like week 11, people still don't know how to do intent and fourfold, and as far as this tier is concerned, at least to me, those are probably the easier mechanics to do in this tier.
Mm,
Just from
yeah.
just from my experience with progging both that and four, because it's like, oh, just go to your assigned spot, right?
Mm, yeah.
But asking people to do the bare minimum is asking too much of PF already. So
Honestly, yeah.
moving on to P2S, second circle. What are your thoughts on the
Mm.
second circle?
Um, Let me think. I mean, two was pretty fun to prog actually. I like that fight. I don't really know. I mean, I guess okay. One thing I like about it is I like the restrictive movement of the arena. I like how you can't go on the water for most
Oh
of
yeah,
it.
yeah. I actually do like
Um,
that. That is pretty cool.
yeah, I like that. I'm trying to think what else. Like, there's nothing like super crazy unique about that fight besides like the limited movement. Because you have like limit cut. You have, I mean, I guess the thing where you have to take away the pushback AOE's. You have the thing with the water, which I guess is kind of cool,
Oh,
where you
channeling
have to kind
flow.
of, yeah, where you have to go like already on limited space, and now you kind of lose control of your character too. So you have to be in like the right spot before it
Yeah,
goes
and you
off.
also have to meet the distance check as well for the mechanic.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, that's kind of interesting. I feel like it's a fight I like less now that I know what's going on, but I think there was a lot of interesting stuff like packed into that fight that made it fun to do like blind or like relatively blind.
Yeah, I would definitely say the blind aspect to that fight was definitely very fun on week one of both progging it into getting the first clear, and then
Hmm.
also how the limit cut mechanic got involved into that fight with as you said before, that very same limited space. So it's like, oh, you have to figure out how
Hmm.
to resolve the
Yeah.
limit cut on such a small space already.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it was a pretty a nice fight. It was a it was a pretty good two as well. I think. Yeah, I think it was fun.
See, that fight, I would say, as far as like party finder is concerned, because I played tank on that fight, and I would say I would much prefer playing tank on that fight compared to one. Like
Hmm.
the only issues I ever
Yeah.
had on two as a tank is the tank buster tether, and people don't want to let you get the tether off of them. You know, you're trying your hardest
Yeah.
to get it off of them. I don't know what it is in
Yeah.
tank buster tethers this tier, man. It's like people see it on them and they just like lose their whole mind and just freak the hell out. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. I want to bring that up. I don't want to get like too far where we are on two, but I do want to mention that they were very tether heavy this tier for some reason. They had a tether in two, they had a tether in three, and they had a tether in four. And I don't know why they like tethers so much, but tethers can be really annoying.
I
Like,
think the only reason they do it is to just add another element of human error into the fight. It's
mm,
like, oh, it's something that when you think about it isn't hard to do, right? It's just you let the correct people take it and handle it, but
mhm,
you like to see if people can actually just freak out over whether or not they have a tether on them and see how that works for the whole rest of the party's downfall, right?
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I just wish there was I don't know. I wish there was another way to deal with tethers than how they have it. I mean, like the mechanics obviously work, but it could just get kind of annoying sometimes. When, especially like when people are walking in places they shouldn't be. And it's like I get that that's kind of like the difficulty aspect of it, like how you were saying, where it's like that's the human error part, but at the same time, it just gets really cheeky annoying sometimes. I mean, I guess for me, it's annoying when other people mess it up, you know, and it's just
Yeah,
like,
that is true, and it is weird too, because that's like the nature of Savage, right? Is that if
mm,
one person messes up, it kind of causes like a domino effect on the whole party.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know, but yeah, two as a fight though was, I mean, it was fun. It was fun for me. I liked it.
Yeah, the healer perspective on that fight for me was it's kind of in the same ballpark as one, where once you finish progging the fight and you start to like either do parsing or trying to speed kill on it, you see that you can kind of get away with just off GCD healing as a healer,
Mm,
and then it's kind of one of those things where I would say the most interactive part rotation wise about that fight as a healer is just deciding how you want to do your do your next pot window when you take into account how in the fight the
hmm.
fucking limit cut the limit cut happens like literally right before people's pots come back up.
Mm,
So it's like
yeah,
you have that option of just deciding if you want to do it then, or if you want to wait later on, as far
yeah.
as
That's
like rotations are concerned in burst windows. But it
yeah.
was pretty. I think another thing I like about that fight as well is that it's very simple to do in a pub setting, because all you do for that fight at the beginning is just assign
Mm,
light parties and then you just go right into
yeah.
the fight.
Yeah, it's
It's
like
not
light
like
parties and how people want to do limit cut. It's like the only two things
oh
that are
yeah,
that
I
different.
forgot about the alternate saucer's cut strategy
Yeah.
that's been swimming around in PF.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so it's nice that out of all the fights to pug, I feel like that's probably one of the easier ones to pug, because even though channeling flow has that same thing of, oh, if one person fucks up or if one person dies, that immediately causes someone else to die. At the very least, there's a lot. I feel like there's more recoverability for someone fucking up
Hmm.
channel flow versus P1, where if someone fucks up in temp or fourfold, everyone's just dead.
Yeah.
Everyone's
Yeah.
just dead. I have yet to see a situation where people actually live from that.
Yeah, you have to mess up channeling flow like really bad to kill more than like yourself and somebody else or something like that.
And it's even the same thing with limit cut too, honestly, where if someone fucks up limit cut, at most maybe you might only have like one or two people dead as opposed to everyone just being dead.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say for that fight, one thing that's kind of weird about it for like parsing, I feel like it has two really strange delays. It has limit cut and it has the like second part where you have where two people will get the knockback AoEs.
Oh, and they have to get
Like
away from the party, right? During
yeah,
the
like
cataract or
yeah.
the wing.
Yeah, there's kind of some uptime stuff you can do for that one, but limit cut especially can really screw you because not only does limit cut like he leaves, like you said, like when your pot and all your stuff is coming up, but another thing too is like even if you try and squeeze out some stuff, depending on which number you get, like you could just get completely screwed. Like if
Right,
you
and
get
then
like
it's a
one or
matter of
two,
just doing
yeah.
repeated runs until you get the right number you want,
hmm
right?
Yeah, so that can it's kind of it comes up at a really weird spot to make you have to leave.
Yes,
But
stuff like that makes me think it's intentional on the devs part because I can imagine they already understand that people do parsing, right? So I guess maybe
mm,
they do this just to either dissuade from parsing or make people think about their rotation a bit more in regards to speed killing fights.
yeah, yeah. I mean, even that aside too, like even if you think of it from like a prog setting too, if that comes up during your normal rotation, and then like for example, you waste something like by mistake or something like that, or then you hold something and then that puts you further behind, it then becomes like harder to kill the fight if your whole rotation gets wacky like that.
Right. Yeah.
Is
I
that
did. I
weird
did forget
delay?
about that for at least prog purposes, right?
Yeah. So that's another thing. I just kind of thought of that now, but yeah. But I don't know. The fight overall was pretty fun.
Yeah. I would say as far as like healers are concerned for like 1 and 2, it
Mm,
felt like the healer vibe in there is kind of just the same to me, where it's just savage level healing, right? Of that dance
mm,
of making sure you keep the party alive and at the same time making sure you do decent amount of damage so
mm,
that your team can actually kill the fight, right?
mm.
So there wasn't really anything too different I haven't seen before in like Savage Fights. It's like, oh, healer light party, make sure I'm in the right location for the light party, or because if I'm not, then everyone's gonna be like, damn, we just lost a healer.
Mm. Yeah.
But yeah, now so on to the monster itself,
Ultimate.
P3S.
Yeah. Uh, this fight is something.
This
So,
is the fight. This is the fight.
do you want to go first or me?
Oh man, I think I'll start us off here on this one. So
Okay.
just because you've had so much feedback from me on all my struggles in the party finder
Mm-hmm.
for this fight,
Yeah.
so I think I think the thing I hate about this fight the most, other than how the beginning of the PF group is literally just everyone deciding on Dark and Fire pairs and then who's going to do the Fountain of Fire healer puddle shit, and then
Mm,
are we doing Mida and Elmo? They usually say it in the PF description, but then there's also tanks melee. Well, they used to do tanks melee and then healer range, and then now they got wise and said we're gonna do the healers with the melee, and we're gonna do the tanks with the range because it makes the
mm-hmm.
spreads easier to do,
Yeah.
and it's just a very annoying fight, both because of how much setup and preparation it takes in the beginning compared to every other fight I've done in this game. And then the
Mm-hmm.
second aspect to it too is how long the fight is, because if the
Yeah.
DPS isn't optimal, that's like an 11-minute fight.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes a
Or
while.
at the very least, even on week one where no one has like good gear like that because we're all on the
Mm-hmm.
crafted shit, that's like an 11-minute fight.
Yeah.
Whereas every other fight in this tier I felt was a lot shorter, right? It was like maybe
Mm-hmm.
8 to 10 minutes. In the
Yeah.
case of P4, you have 7 and 8 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So this one, It was a big downer for me just because of how long the fight was. Because I felt the longest of the fight during the prog. Because especially if you go into Party Finder, because Party Finder is literally just as prog.
Mm-hmm.
You're lucky if you can even get past ads.
Yeah.
Straight up, like
Yeah.
I joined a party earlier on today in the fight. Like, I already got my clear for the week with my static. I joined a group just because I wanted to practice playing Scholar in this fight. I wanted to get used to Scholar's heal timings and their rotation in this fight. So I was in the group, and I joined with them. And very immediately we wiped to Darkened Fire because, so you know how on Darkened Fire it targets either the DPS or tanks and healers? On the square that I was on, there was another healer on my square. I'm looking at that. I'm like, I wonder what's going to happen. And then on a different square, there were 2 DPS on the same square. So what happened is that it spawned on all the DPS. You already know that was a wipe. You already know that was a wipe. And then after that happened, we were able to get to the phase part where the big birds appear. And we had, I think, 2 people die because they got hit by the second hit of the bird. And you know how the first hit gives you a debuff, so you're just dead, get hit again. And that happened a second time in a row. And when the second time in a row happened, the party leader was like, all right, hang on, I gotta make some adjustments to the party real fast. And he basically just kicked all the people that failed the fucking mechanic. I was like, wow.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, the thing about it is I didn't really see the terror of this fight until after I had already beaten it with my group and I went into Party Finder.
Yeah, you went into Party Finder.
Then I was like, oh, these people acting different in here.
You saw me talking all that shit about Party Finder, right? And you was like,
I was like, this fight isn't that hard.
He was like, is it that bad, Ether? Really? You went in, you saw me like, oh, it is that bad.
I don't know. Like, I'm gonna be real. Like, I don't know if it is as hard as it was back in the day, but I really feel like this fight is almost like a modern day A3S with Living Liquid, because I feel like this fight, what makes it really difficult is I feel like there's a lot of responsibility on like everybody. And a lot of times people have to move and adjust around everybody else at the same time. So there's a lot of potentials to wipe on like random crap. Like all the tank busters are all the peaking tethers again. So it's like, if people are spread out and stuff, it becomes really freaking hard to get the tethers. Sometimes the tethers come up, like for the tornadoes, they'll come up when other people are trying to move around for other stuff. Then you have tethers going all over the place. Like I did one like a couple days ago where like I was getting my tether and then a DPS like ran past me to get to the other side and took the tether and just kept running with it. And I was like, oh no, why would you run through the middle of the boss? It's just like, that's a lot of responsibility on different people. I feel like it can do a lot of damage in certain spots. So there's like a lot of responsibility on the healers, especially I think the biggest mechanic, and I can't remember its name, but it's the one with like where like the people who stand in the middle will get an AoE and then they have to like stand in front of the puddles and stuff while the healers are going around.
Oh, that's Fountain of Fire.
Yeah. I feel like that mechanic is like low-key one of the hardest ones because everybody has to move around each other and a lot of people get very limited space. And not only that, the healers can't really help you because they're dealing with themselves. Like they literally like make your healers, like they tie up your healers' hands and they're like, okay, you guys just have to not get hit essentially because we can't heal you.
Even with that aspect, right? It's like even them healing doesn't even matter because with that mechanic you get the fire debuff when you get hit by the AoE. So if you get hit by another one, you just instantly die.
Yeah. So it's like I feel like that mechanic is one of the hardest because it's just like everyone has to do something that's like if you don't do it right, then you're just dead. And
I remember when I was doing that mechanic for the first time as a tank because I when I completed the fight, I did it as a healer, and then I went to Party Finder as a tank just for funsies, right? And when I got to doing that mechanic, and I did the mechanic right, but one thing I saw that was annoying was I was like, wait a minute, if I try to get uptime here, I'm actually gonna just die.
Yeah.
I was like in my head, I was like, do I actually have to just hold the L on uptime here? Because I never paid attention to what the melee and my groups were doing during that mechanic. Because I'm busy with my own shit. But I was just looking at it like, wait, because that's what happened to me. Is that after I did my part in the mechanic, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go back to hitting the boss. I go back to hitting the boss, I died because I got hit by I got hit by someone's either AOE or their bird, and I was like, oh shit.
Like, you can keep uptime, but the thing that makes it difficult is you have to know where other people's stuff is going and like squeeze in between them. And I think that's and another thing too is depending on which bird you have, sometimes you got to watch for your healer too, because your healer might be going around in the circle and you can't cleave them.
Right? Yeah, you have to kind of give them some space. I remember seeing the.
Because I know for our group, there were a couple times, because I'm pretty sure we did tanks first in our group. And there were a couple times where I just straight up cleaved the healer behind me, depending on which way I went. And it's like, oh, snap, I didn't even know you were back there. And it's like there's a lot of really small positioning things you have to do during that mechanic. And everybody has to do something like that, which I think can make it like pretty difficult.
Yeah, it's funny too, because I think what also hurts groups the most when it comes to that mechanic is that in order to practice that mechanic, you need to be able to reliably get past the ad phase, because the ad phase has enrage. But if you're in a group that does shitty damage, you will never get past ad phase. And here's I think that's the big issue with this fight as far as Party Finder is concerned, is that when you look at 1 and 2 and 4, you could at least hit enrage, and like you can at least see all the mechanics in the fight. Like, people are ass and they don't do damage, but at least you can practice all the mechs. In 3, you can't practice all the mechs. It's like you're practicing at phase 9% of the time. You only be able to practice firestorms and fountain of fire maybe like 5 times, like compared to the hundreds of times you've been in at phase. Like, it's crazy.
And some like the issue too is sometimes I've had both sides of the coin. I've had some groups that just can't kill the ads like in time, and then we wipe because of that. And I've also had groups that have had good DPS, but they're like blindly DPSing. And I've seen so many times where the ads will they'll die too close to each other because they just blow up the ad before I can move it or the other tank can move it. And it's just like, bruh, what is happening, man? So the ad phase can be kind of.
If you have me, you might want to move your character.
Oh, I got you.
Oh yeah, just so you don't get booed for being AFK.
But yeah, I don't know. That fight is like I said, I didn't have that much issue. I mean, we had prog, and we had like some prog issues, but it was nothing compared to what you were telling me about. But I saw what you were telling me about when I started Party Finder.
Yeah, that's one thing that I noticed. I remember when I was asking you, yo, this damage check is really insane. I'm actually surprised that it's this hard. And you were like, there was a damage check? Yeah. You was like, there was a damage. I was like, what?
Yeah, I mean, like we had obviously, the first week, not having gear and stuff. So it's like you gotta do damage and stuff, but it wasn't crazy. But I don't know.
Yeah, I saw what you meant more when I was able to actually get to that fight with my group, and I'm like, oh, we actually, always get past F phases. The only time we would ever fuck up F phases is if someone like randomly died to like the second hit of burst, but that like rarely happens. So it was just whatever, you just move on to the next part of the fight.
Yeah.
But it's just insane to see how. I don't know what it is about people in Party Finder, man. I don't know if it's because they're just bad at pressing their buttons or just bad at words. Because I have some runs today, right, where there's like, I understand that people still progging a fight, and they're still trying to get their first clear, right? I understand they make fuck ups, but there's some fuck ups where you just look at it like, how do you fuck that up? And what I mean by that is, so how when the birds respawn into the big birds and how each tank gets 2 birds, right? Explain to me why I see two birds at 10% on the same cardinal direction.
That happened to me. That happened to
You
me.
see it, right? You
I
see
was
that
in a
shit.
party finder group and they killed them. They were killing them at the exact same percentage going down. And literally as soon as one died, the other one died instantly. And it was like, what are you guys doing? Just swap to another one. Like, why are you guys hitting both of
Like
them
I'm
at the
not
same
like,
time
cause
like this?
I'm looking at that in my head. Like, I'm a healer, right? So my damage is like not as much as theirs. But I'm just looking at it like, y'all don't see why this shit is fucked
Yeah,
up
that's what I'm
already.
saying.
Like,
It's like they're trying to be like, we'll kill it first. We'll just race them. It's like, why would you do it? Why would you think about it like
like
that?
you
Just
you know
swap to
you're
the
on
other
a
one.
timer. You know you're on a timer. Why are you fucking God forbid you kill them both at the same time and the run is already just fucked, right? You know.
Exactly. I don't know. I don't know what people are thinking. I don't.
Like you wanna know why I do sometimes? I pick the fucking sign. I put one on one bird. I put two on the other one. Like you fit this one first. Y'all hit this one first. I don't know what it
Oh,
is, but
that's
they actually
good.
pay attention to that shit. I don't know what it is. It's like they turn their brain off, and then you put one on the
Yeah,
bird's head, and then they're like, "Oh, that's right. We gotta kill one at a time." Like,
that's what I'm saying.
I
It
don't
doesn't
get
make any
it. I
sense.
don't get it. Like, and I
Yeah.
think the craziest shit was when, after that poll, I literally had to
Mm.
explain to them like, can someone in this party right now explain to me, because everyone in that party knew I cleared it before, because it gives you the notification, right, that someone cleared. I'm telling
Yeah.
them like, y'all explain to me why there are two birds at 10% on the same cardinal. I say explain that shit to me. Real talk.
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Because
That's what I was saying. Where
I
people just
read
blindly
when I joined
DPS.
that party, I read Fountain of Fire Prog. That's what I read in the
Hmm.
description. That, you wonder what that means? That means everyone that joins should know damn well what the fuck to do at that part in the fight. They should know damn well they're supposed to do that.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know. I don't know.
That's the craziest shit I've ever seen, man.
Yeah.
And I think the craziest thing was that in week one, I was like, all right, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't play a healer in this fight because people don't know how to do damage. So I'll play Dragoon, right? So I'm
Hmm.
in there with my crafted 580 gear that I got from the market board as a Dragoon. I'm doing the
Uh.
fight. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna kill these ads and get past ad phase and be able to prop more of the fight, right? So
Mm.
you know how they do the light party assignment bullshit for the ads, right? So
Yeah.
I kill both of my ads. I'm like, all right. I turn around. I see two birds still alive in the same cardinal. I'm like, huh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. There's real like the thing about it is you can't carry that. You can't
That's
carry
so
that. You
true. Like,
need
I
people
think the
to.
craziest shit that I've noticed is that whenever I'm responsible for a pair of ads, that pair always dies.
Hmm.
I don't know what it is. They always die when I'm on them. Like, I'm playing a DPS. They always die. I'm playing a tank. They always die because I play Gunbreaker, right? So on Gunbreaker,
Hmm.
you just pop your No Mercy and double down. That just like destroys the fucking
Yeah.
HP right then and there.
Yeah.
I turn around. I'm like, huh. Seem to notice those ads are still alive. I guess this is why people are still stuck in this fight.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like, in that party I joined, the party leader, yo, man, I know he felt pain and suffering, man. He said he's stuck on this fight since week one. He's just been, because he doesn't have a group, right? So he's just been doing
Yeah.
PF, and he's just been stuck in this whole fight. I'm gonna be real with you, man. That shit would just probably tilt the fuck out of me. I'll probably hate the whole player base out for that shit.
I would not be playing the game still probably.
Like, you want to know what's the craziest shit about this fight too? If that was like me trying to get a clear in PF, I'll be thinking to myself that maybe I'm just garbage at the game. Like at
Hmm.
that point, and then rather than it just being, oh, you just find a good group, play with them, and then you see that you just re-cleared with no problem week after week, and you see you're not the problem. It's just everyone in
Yeah.
PF is the problem.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think one of
No.
the big things with this fight is that, like, difficulty wise compared to 1 and 2, because of how easy 1 and 2 work compared to this fight, you have so many people that just barely scrape by in 2 that are
Mm.
just completely AFK in 3. Like, they're straight up
Yeah.
AFK in 3, man. Like,
I mean, I can believe that. Yeah.
because I noticed that the PF groups in 4 are a lot noticeably better than the ones in 3. And I think it's just specifically because 3 is the gatekeeper. It's either you're good enough to somehow get into a PF group that's good enough to get the clear, or you join a static that was good enough with you to get your clear so that you can, do party finder clears if you ever need to.
Yeah.
And then it's like everyone else is just suffering because they're stuck. You have legitimately good, decent people at the game that are stuck with complete garbage people that don't know how to play the game, and they're all just stuck on the same floor trying to get past. They it's like, oh, Fountain of Fire prog, or clear to enrage, and you see everyone just can't get past that phase still.
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, the ads aren't even that hard either.
Yeah,
it's
not.
like that phase is not even that hard. There's not a ton of stuff going on, but
so yeah, for me playing that fight as a healer, I would say even though I do hate the fight, I will give it credit for the fact that it makes the fight more engaging for a healer, more so because of what they have us doing during Fountain of Fire, and as well as the tornado part. Just because for tornadoes you have the personal assignments if you do Mida. Or if you're doing Elmo, then that's whatever. But I prefer I think mine is more cooler for the personal assignments. Then there's also the Death's Toll mechanic, where it's basically telling your healers, all right, make sure you actually plan your cooldowns so that you can heal the party back up to full for Death's Toll after they all get reduced to 1 HP. Because
just bring an Astro.
Or yeah, you can just bring an Astro and just not give a fuck about the mechanic. Or if you do what other groups do, they just use their healer LB if they don't run Astro.
Yeah. Honestly, that fight, I didn't even know what macro was until we got to that mechanic, and then I was like, oh, that's what macro is, huh? It's like, Jesus.
Yeah, it's one of those fights where if you're playing a pure healer, you're kind of crying if you don't know how to play Astro for that fight.
Yeah, I mean, you can make it on the other ones.
No, yeah, you definitely can, but it's just more effort, right? Because it's like if you're playing White Mage, you're just going, planetary cure 3, cure 3, cure 3.
Yeah.
Sage is doing, physics, Pepsis, Ixicol, Numa. Scholar is, I feel like Scholars is a little on the weaker side because they're kind of just doing Recitation, Indom, Fey Blessing, Immersi Tactus Succor. But I do like that because it's one of those things where it's basically saying, listen, if you're playing a healer in this fight and you're, for whatever reason, not playing Astro, make sure you know how to do healing.
Yeah.
So I like that it actually does those things where it just checks every roll, right? Tanks actually have to move the ads and take tank busters. DPS needs to make sure they know how to deal damage. Healers need to make sure they know to constantly apply healing to the party through all the raid-wide attacks and all the raid-wide damage over time stuff. So it's stuff that it's a fight that I appreciate more as a static as opposed to playing in PF, because PF is just people are just so bad that they can't even approach the fight at the fundamental level. It's actually atrocious to just witness that.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know, because even at this point, I mean, I was trying it this week, and I know last week I straight up skipped it. I tried it with my friend for like 2 hours, I think, and we were just like, dog, nah, let's just go on the floor.
Oh, you was actually doing a reclear with friends?
Yeah, I've just been doing it in PF because our group stopped after week 8. So that's what I'm saying is I actually know the PF struggle now because I've been in there.
Okay, because I was under the impression that you were just constantly doing reclears with your group because y'all was solid.
No, we stopped after week 8 once because by that time everybody had best installed on their actual jobs
on their main, right? Yeah, so they don't. Yeah. So it's basically they don't care about their alts, right? Just the main.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of crazy that it's still this bad, even at week 11.
See, it's crazy you mentioned that to me because that makes me very frightened because you said that was happening to you in a re-clear party. So that means that's in a party with people that
Mm-hmm.
actually cleared before, and you
Yeah,
would expect they would know what they're doing.
that's what I'm saying. It throws me off. I don't know.
Oh man, re-clear party and you see you wipe that ass face.
Yeah, it's happened. That's where
Yeah.
that's where the example that I had where they killed it on the same marker that
Oh
happened in a
man.
re-clear party.
Holy shit.
So yeah, I don't know.
Damn, that's a struggle, man. This fight, like, I remember when our friend Mizu was having struggles with this fight too, because even
Mm-hmm.
more so for her because she plays on Primal and Primal is worse on Ether in terms of skill, and then also they have less PFs up. So
Mm.
it's like if you even wanted to practice the fight, you're basically waiting like hours for the lobbies to just fill up because they don't have that many lobbies compared to Ether.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
Oh man. This fight in particular definitely just takes it for me for this tier, just because it's like it's the third turn, and for some odd reason the third turn feels more difficult than the fourth one. At least to me, at least like in from just progging and practicing four, it feels to me that three feels like the most difficult of the fight of the tier.
Well, I think one of the issues with three being harder is because, like you said before, three is a longer fight, and four both of them are not nearly as long. So
Yeah, it's like in four it feels like you're in and out, or at
mhm.
least it just feels very fast. Like not ultimate pace, but
Yeah,
just feels very faster because
yeah,
it's like a mechanic is done in four and then another mechanic is immediately happening right after.
hmm, yeah.
But so yeah, now we are moving on to four though. This is the final fight with the phase one and the phase two. So let's talk about that phase one first though.
All right. Well, phase one once again has speaking tethers. Uh, honestly, they're not as annoying in fight as they were in three for me, but um, I don't know. I think the big mechanic of this fight is probably the peanuts. That's probably the roughest thing because there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. I know you've said many times the people can't spread, and that is 100% true. People cannot spread, especially dog. I've gotten to the point now where if it goes lightning and then spread, and I'm the tank that has to go middle, I straight up pop sprint, dog. I pop sprint every time because those DPS will not give you any room to not kill you. So
It's weird because I feel like they forget that they're supposed to pre-position before
yeah.
the spread happens.
Hmm. Like we have these super spread out positions so that you can go early, and then they just see lightning, and everybody just stays right there on the wall. So
Like I think people
I don't know.
forget that lightning is proximity based, so it's like as long as you're along the wall, you're fine.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I'm telling you, like if it's lightning spread, you will see me pop sprint every time. Because like I don't want to die to that anymore.
In PF, I
But
actually pop expedient during Pinax because of
honestly, I wish I'm telling you, Scholar was really good in general for this tier. I feel like there was a lot of times that expedient sprint was very, very nice.
okay, okay, yeah. But yeah, so it's very chaotic during Pinax, right? You have
Yeah.
just people doing the same nonsense that you've always seen them do
Hmm.
in previous fights, right? Because
Yeah.
it's not like it's nothing new. It's just you're doing it with other things in mind, right? Light
Hmm.
parties, spread. There's a knockback. Make sure you pop your knockback in ball, and then there's also speaking back to what you're saying about the tethers, about how you kind of see what happens when there's four tethers and people don't want to stick to what I like to say the quote unquote plan, which is
Hmm.
everyone stack up and behind each other so that the people can just take the tether easy. No, you always have that one DPS that wants to be to the left of the boss for that reason. I don't know if it's because they're trying to hit a positional. I don't know what's so hard about playing DPS and hitting true north. All I know is that they gotta stop it, man. You know, it's like I see that, and I already know it's either going to A, kill someone, or B, is gonna have to make someone adjust in the craziest way possible, and you're gonna hope it actually pulls off well.
Yeah, but it usually doesn't. Usually you end up dead with that mechanic.
Or even better with the virus debuff where people don't actually grab the debuff, and then you're just like, well, I guess I'm going to be dead at the end of this mechanic.
Yeah. Well, even the thing usually what happens is when people don't grab them, they usually grabbed it off of somebody else. And that's what ends up happening. So you end up with one person who is supposed to have it, who now has
because what happens is, the ideal scenario that's supposed to happen is that the people that's supposed to immunize are supposed to be right on top of each other inside of each other's hitbox, so that it counts as touching someone and then it actually transfers immediately when it's there. But you have people in Party Finder, they say, no, I don't want to stand on top of their hitbox. I want to stand just a little bit to their left, and then it fucks up the whole mech.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to, because you're supposed to stand right on top of them.
Yeah, I know in our group too, the person that was kind of doing our call outs would always tell you to kind of like wiggle around too if you're the people that are in the stack, so that
the contact happens, right?
Yeah, so like you can spread it amongst yourselves if someone doesn't have it.
Right.
But yeah, that's usually the biggest issue is people will be stacked up, and then like two people will try and go for it at the same time, and one person will run into the other and take it off of them, and then you just get messed up there.
Right, but I will say the fight, like, PF struggles aside, the fight is definitely very fun to prog, though. Like, this was one of the more fun fights to me, the prog, I feel, just because I felt that the mechs were very simple, and because they were very simple, you can focus more on just fighting the boss itself, which makes it more fun, because you see that most of the struggle in this fight is just making sure you beat the DPS check to the enrage. And I thought it was a fun idea to have a short fight with simple mechs, where the goal of the fight is to make sure you're able to beat the boss before the enrage. Because to me it felt very different from other fights, where other fights it feels like they just tacked on enrage to make sure that you just can't cheese the fight and make sure they don't have to do a thing where they just repeat mechanics until enrage. Whereas this felt like the enrage is there because they're telling you, make sure you kill the boss before this point.
Yeah. I liked progging that fight a lot too. I did it on Warrior, and it was fun for two reasons. For me, one reason was because at the time of prog, we didn't really know about the whole like north thing during Pinox, so
right,
he was always middle,
facing north, right?
Yeah. So slowly discovering that I could actually cool down that lightning was pretty fun at first, because I was like, oh, I can actually just stay in melee range.
You just ignore the mechanics, right? As a tank, that's the real tank privilege, is being able to ignore some mechanics.
Yeah. The other fun thing about Warrior specifically on that fight is the pushbacks, because if you end up in a situation where it's like the water pushback plus his cape, because Warrior can stay in inner release one extra GCD if you use Primal Rend before the Fell Cleaves, you can actually inner release through that whole thing, because what you can do is you can do Fell Cleave, then Primal Rend, and then Fell Cleave again, and you'll still keep your inner release buff. So you can like keep the knockback in ball.
Right, so you basically keep it full uptime no matter what the boss is doing.
So that was pretty fun to find out too, and it felt really interesting, especially for Warrior, because most people will always do like either Primal Rend 3 Fell Cleaves or 3 Fell Cleaves Primal Rend. So seeing that not only can you actually just do that in general, where you can use Primal Rend wherever, but it's actually kind of optimal to do that in certain spots, depending on what the mechanics are, was nice to see.
Right. And then, from the tank to the healer perspective on this fight, for me personally, it was it was another engaging fight I liked as a healer because
Mhm.
this fight has moments in it where you ask yourself, well, at least as far as prog is concerned, like, oh, what am I going to use here to make sure people don't die? And I guess one of those most important parts was the orb phase
Mhm. Yeah.
because and then that also is also very dependent on what strategy your group uses. So my group did a
Mhm.
strategy where we position ourselves in such a way to bring two orbs to us. So we just do one like the orbs are coming to us, and then we kind of just move a little bit to the left and then a little bit to the right to blow them both up.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it
I've done that
was,
strat too.
yeah, so it wasn't very movement intensive, and personally as a healer, I like that a lot because I felt like people were a much more closer to me to receive healing rather than
Hmm.
the other stuff you see in PF. But I feel like for the other stuff in PF, it has a chance of people not being close enough to the healers to receive AoE healing.
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
very fun to experiment with what cooldowns and abilities I had to use at this part because I know this is a
Yeah.
part that would definitely mess up a lot of what's what I'm looking for, less experienced healers doing
Mhm.
going into this fight. And then I
Yeah.
also
I don't.
felt that again during Pinax because you have the spreads that occur, or well, it's not gonna be
Mhm.
spreads or light party, so that does a lot of damage. And you know you have to make sure you heal everyone back up prior to moving to the boss shift, because then you know the next one is gonna come. The leftover one is gonna be either spread or light parties, depending on what the first one
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
So I thought it was really cool that they did a lot of stuff in this fight specifically to tell healers, listen, make sure you know how to do your job. Because if you don't know how to do your job, people are just gonna die to raid wide.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you had any issues with it, and I haven't healed it myself, but I have seen some healers have like actual issues with blood rake too.
Oh, I
Um.
seen that at the yeah, I seen that at the beginning. It's
Yeah.
very
Where.
it's one of those things where you definitely want to coordinate, if possible, you definitely want to coordinate with your other healer on what you want to do there. Because
Mhm.
during Prague, it was okay-ish, but then when I got to optimize it a bit, I noticed that like what you do at that part is very dependent on what your co-healer is. Like for example, if I'm playing Scholar and my co-healer is an Astrologian,
Mm.
you can kind of just let them do the first blood rake because in Astrologer's opener they use macro.
Mm.
So it's like they use macro in their opener because macro actually does damage.
Yeah.
So they use macro in their opener, blood rake happens, and they basically heal everyone back up with just their macro
Mm.
alone. And then the next
Yeah.
reroll happens, and as a scholar, I'll just do a recitation in them, and that's enough healing,
Mm.
you know.
Yeah.
But I thought that was cool though that they do have these things to that make you question what you're doing as a healer, so that you can both keep people alive and also still optimize your own personal DPS.
Yeah.
And I also
Yeah.
felt that a lot more so going into phase two as well when you see certain stuff like Act Two and Curtain Call.
Mm.
So let's talk about that phase two because you know it's the thing that I before going to phase two, I heard people kept saying that two is actually easier than one, and I can actually
Yeah.
agree with that honestly.
Mm. Yeah. I think two's biggest issues are Act Two and the end. And the end is mostly a healer thing. And I know you can't wait to talk about the debuff timers, but
Oh man,
yeah,
oh
those are
man.
probably the two hardest spots in the fight. Besides that, there's not a whole bunch. I mean, there's stuff that's going on, but it's not very difficult stuff in the rest of the fight. Um,
Yeah, Act One is very straightforward. You know, it's just stand
mm,
on a tower, avoid AOE, please. You might wipe to it, you know, like one or two times at when you're like just progging it, but after that, it's like you know how to do it. It's
yeah,
not hard.
yeah,
You're gonna learn how to do it.
yeah.
I haven't seen groups like my group. I think we kind of spent like maybe 10 to 15 minutes on just Act One, then we got it down after that.
Mm, yeah, I don't remember how long it took us, but it wasn't very long. It wasn't very
Yeah,
long.
it was very straightforward.
Mm,
You know, and then Act Two is the part where I think that's just going to be tripping up a lot of groups in Prague. I know personally from my group, we basically spent a whole raid day on just Act Two because we do like 2 hour raid
hmm
days. So a whole
Yeah.
session was just us practicing and progging Act 2.
Yeah. The thing about Act 2 too is it's not even really hard. It's a lot to remember.
Yes,
Trying to
yes.
process what needs to actually happen in that part is kind of intensive. But like
Because
once you know
it's
what you need to do, it's not
yeah,
that
because
bad.
there's two different paths that happen. It's a 50 it's a 50-50 on top of another 50-50 because the first
Mm,
50-50 is what the safe spot is because what the safe spot is going to determine how you move. And then the other 50-50 is what debuff you get.
yeah. Yeah. So there's just like a whole bunch of different paths this stuff can go down, and you have to be ready for
Yeah,
all
because
of
for
them.
me, when I was starting out on it first, I was very comfortable with north south safe, but when east and west was safe, I was like, holy shit, where am I going? What am I doing? I don't know what it was about east and west, man. Like north and south, I don't know what it was. My brain was like, oh, north and south safe, I do X, Y, Z. Okay, that's okay. East and west was safe. I'm like, Lord have mercy, where am I going? I got dark. Where am I going? I don't know where the tank is
Yeah.
going. He don't know where he's going because I don't know where I'm going.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty nutty. 'Cause it was the same way for our group too. Like I don't know if I had really a preference on which one I was better at, but I remember being generally the same way. Uh, yeah, once you kind of it's one of those mechanics too where you kind of just like need to not really care about anybody else, just learn your part specifically, and once you know your part, it becomes like a lot easier to digest.
Yeah, and then as the healer perspective on it, it was very fun and creative to see how I am going to heal people during this mechanic because
Hmm.
there's the party stats happening, and then after that happens, there's also the raid fight at the end of it. I kind of
Mm,
like that just because it's basically telling healers, hey, make sure you know to do your job, right? Never can't shirk on the healing, or else people are just gonna die to raid wise.
yeah,
It
that's
was pretty
true.
funny too because I felt like Act 3 was a lot easier than Act 2. Like
Which one?
Act 3.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I felt like my group we got that down in like 20 minutes because it was like
Hmm.
like conceptually it's not hard, right?
Yeah,
It's just you go into some towers, someone base a kick, and then you go inside the boss hitbox to bait the proximity cleaves, and then it's over.
yeah, yeah. I actually like that act, even though it's like mad simple. I just like the feel of him like jumping from one side to the other, and then he kind of like jumps again. I don't know. It's one of those
No,
parts
yeah,
that
I
kind of like
definitely think
feels
it was
cool.
cool, and I also like how they put the proximity-based cleaves into it, just because it's
Hmm.
like it's because it'll argue the fact that it's basically the same shit they did in P3, but it's still cool to just see that and just see how it all comes together, like execution-wise. It just looks
Yeah,
very cool to see.
yeah. I'm trying. What is even Act 4? Is Act 4 the counting thing?
Oh
Oh
no,
no,
that's
that's the
finale. That's finale.
that.
Act 4 is the one where you have the blue debuff and the purple debuff, and
Yeah.
the blue debuffs do the AoE. Oh wait, I was AOK. Let me go relock in real fast.
It's okay. Oh no, you're still here. Oh no, you're
Yeah.
disconnected now.
But yeah, as I was saying, about how so you have the blues immediately go off, and then the
Hmm.
purples have to take their turns breaking their tethers because they do both the raid wide and the localized AoE from the tower that they broke. And I
Yeah.
actually kind of like that part because of the both the communication and also how you're all kind of just running around in a circle, just running from the
Yeah.
AoEs that are coming out.
Yeah.
I actually like how that feels. I don't know, it's fun.
Yeah. I know when we first did that, our healers were having issues with trying to figure out what they actually needed to do, like healing wise, as we were
Oh
like
yeah,
running
I
around the
definitely
circles.
felt that because at that at that point in the fight, it's very hard to try to cast a GCD heal because you have to
Hmm.
move. So you have
Yeah, and that's
to
probably why they did it.
yeah,
That's probably why they did it like that.
because it's very dependent on how you go into off GCD healing into that part
Hmm.
because I know you use a little bit prior to that part because there is a raid wise that occurred at the very beginning of it.
Yeah, and it probably doesn't help either. The fact that you can get random stuff because like I know sometimes
Oh yeah,
sometimes the
sometimes it's
healing.
inner cards, sometimes it's cards,
Yeah.
right? For
Well,
the
not even just that, but like let's say if you're a healer, like everybody usually starts like south, right? Like with the first break.
yeah.
So like if you got like like a southmost tether as a healer, then it's going to be a lot easier for you to heal than if you got like the north one and you have to run all the way
Oh
down to
yeah,
break your
that is
tether
true.
before
Yeah,
you can even do
if you're
anything.
the first one that has to break, right?
Yeah. So it's like depending on which one you get, it might change up your healing rotation a
You know,
bit because
it's
you
funny
might.
you mentioned that because that kind of like plays a part in curtain call too.
Yeah, yeah, that's true actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but seeing of Mexo, you know, I'm thinking about Finale, right? Finale is a funny mechanic because I like mechanics like Finale because you just look at it like, okay, so this is very simple, but you
Yeah.
know someone's gonna fuck it up. You know someone's gonna fuck it up.
It's
Like it sounds like a mechanic
honestly
you think people will be able to do on their first try, but you know someone's gonna fuck it up. You just
it's
know it.
honestly yeah, it's honestly hilarious because like it's the same way with me. Is I actually like that type of mechanic too, where it's like deceptively easy, where it's literally all you have to do is count and then just go into your
It's
thing.
like
But
Dark and Fire, but you're adding instead of subtracting. Like to me, when it came to Dark and Fire, and I saw that, I'm like, oh, this is easy. You just if you just go to whatever your number is. If you're 4 or less, if you're higher than 4, you just subtract 4 from it. You know where to
yeah,
go. And then you go
yeah.
into Party Finder, and you're like, I seem to notice people do not know how to do subtraction. Very interesting.
Yeah, like I know. It was really funny in our group because the person that was calling the numbers, like actually counting out loud for us, was the person who would mess it up the most. Like every time
No,
he
you
would
want? I
count,
think I know why. It's because he's counting it for everyone, and then he
and he
forgets
doesn't
his own
remember his.
number.
Yep, yep. And
That's
it's so funny though because he'll go to the one and he's like, "I'm sure this was 3," and we're like, "Nah, dog, three's over there." And he's like, okay. He just got to the point that he's just like, I'm just gonna let you guys. I'll count the numbers, but you guys tell me which number I need to
No,
go
you want
to.
to be funny if like he just let everyone go to their space and just occupy the empty one.
Yeah. Honestly, it was so funny because he would do it so many times. Like me, I'm really dumb with that mechanic too. Like I'm dumb with the sense of seeing like easily seeing which one is actually mine unless it's like 1 or 8 or something like that.
Because like how the boss tethers to one and the one you tethers to is just at random and then he just goes
Yeah.
clockwise from there.
So and by the time I figure out which one he first tethered to, I'm like, I don't know which one is which. So like what I usually do is I will just find one and then I will just run around in a circle until I find which number I'm supposed to get. That's how I do it.
I'm sure
personally.
everyone in the party is like, what the fuck is this guy doing?
I always go to one because you have so much time to figure out which one is because 8 takes forever to show up. So you just find which one doesn't have a tether
I
next
noticed
to
that
it.
too about the mechanic.
Yeah.
I told that to people in case that help them out.
Yeah, so that's what I do is I just find one and then I just run around in a circle until I get to whatever number I know I need to go to. But yeah, it's cheeking. It's pretty funny. But yeah, I like that mechanic too. It's not too crazy, but it's still fun to do.
Yeah, it is pretty something, right? You just looking at it like, wow, it's something that is simple, but you can already see where the room for error is already. But
Yeah.
I guess the only upside to it is that it's still livable through the party. Like if people fuck it up, at least you could raise them up. Because as long as the tower gets soaked, that's all that matters. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's very. It's a very funny mech just because. Like, because if someone messes up, you're just looking at it like there's really nothing we can do to help you out, man. It's like, do we have to teach you how to count from 1 to 8 or something? Like there's like nothing you can really do. It's just.
It's one of those things
Like,
where if you mess it up, you just kind of have to sit there in shame.
yeah,
Like,
it's
oh, I
like
can't count
like
to
when I
8.
see a mech like that, I call it a freebie because they could have made it something more difficult. They could have made it something as difficult as Act 2, but it was like, no, we'll just do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And And then you go from the easiest mechanic of your life into curtain call,
Mm,
where a curtain call looks difficult at first, and then when you realize what you're doing, you're like, oh, this is actually not too bad.
yeah. Yeah. But yeah, you want to talk about those seeking those tethers now?
Oh man, oh
The
man,
timers?
my boy. You would think after P1 people will look at their debuffs. Lord have mercy, I was wrong as a motherfucker. You would think after P2 people will look at the debuffs. Lord have mercy, I was wrong as a motherfucker. You would think after P4, where you have P4 phase one, where you get the virus, people will look at their time at their debuffs. Lord. You can have people do 4 circles of the same shit, and they'll still manage to mess it up on each circle. Not
Mm-hmm.
retain a damn thing. Not retain a damn thing. You remember what I said? Or maybe you didn't hear this, but I told my friend, listen, what I like about this game is that they'll bring mechanics from past fights into new fights. So if you've done it in the earlier fights, it's the same shit you're doing in the new fight. It
Mm-hmm.
just looks different, but it's the same shit.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, other people don't realize that, and it's like, listen, man, you looked at your debuff once, you looked at it 100 times. You should be like, the second you see the cast bar go off, you should automatically be looking at your debuffs. You
Yeah.
would think people would make their debuff icons at like 200%, viewability like I do, but nah, they,
Yeah.
they they probably tucked it away into a corner of their screen right underneath their HP bar, and then they wonder why they never see the timer. And I'm like,
Yeah. The thing that I hate the most isn't even like, because I know it's the static rule of going like what, like 12 and 7 is when you're supposed to go out, but like the thing that I don't like is that people are just oblivious to the debuff that you get from someone else blowing up. Like people
oh
people just don't
yes,
look at that at all,
yes.
because like sometimes, like even if someone goes like early or late, you can still recover as long as you just wait for that to fall off and then
Mhm,
break your tether.
mhm.
But a lot of people they're just like, oh, it's my time, and then they just go anyway, and it's like, why
And the
would you
craziest
do
thing
that?
too is that with the way the timers are set for you to break it, is that it's set that way so that as long as you follow that, you will always break it when the runs out.
Yeah, but I don't know. People, they don't pay attention to that one. And it's just like, why?
I think the
I don't
funniest
know.
thing about that mech to me is just seeing how everything hinges on that first DPS that gets 12, and then you see they have to, do their job.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
it's just,
'cause
the 25% chance on who gets that.
some people do not be moving out.
Yo,
So
man. Yo, I'm telling you, man, them timers be beating people's ass in this game, yo. Straight up, like it's like you could do act. You was able to do act two, but you couldn't do current call. What happened? That's how I look
yeah,
at it. Like, what happened?
honestly,
You was able to
yeah.
do the hardest mechanic like 10 minutes into the fight.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why people just have like an urge to rush and get theirs over with, I think, instead of just taking it slow. But
Like,
it's
there's some
it's
parts in this game where I feel like people actually just overthink it. Because to me, I'm just like,
mm,
yo, it's just when it's your time. When your timer hits this number, you go. Like, there's no
mm,
what ifs or buts about it. You just go.
mm,
The health thing, kind of AOE thing does happen. You kind of have to, watch out for it. But that isn't too bad, honestly. That's
yeah.
compared to all the other things they had us do this tier. That part is very tame to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it really is. There's not much going on. I mean, it's like, yeah, you have to heal it, AOEs, but besides that, it's literally just you walking out. And some people don't even have to dodge the AOEs on their way out. They just have to walk out.
Yep, I'm one of those people. I
So,
have yet to have a time where I actually was the one that had to dodge while breaking my tether.
yeah. So it's just like, I don't know. I don't know why it's so hard where all you have to do is look at the number and just leave when the number goes to whenever you're supposed to leave. But
Sometimes when they design these fights, I'm wondering if they ever think to themselves, "Oh, this isn't too bad. They're gonna get it right." And then they see the clear race, and then they go, "Oh,
I mean, it's probably almost certainly happened. They've put in stuff and they're like, this. they probably put this in. They're like, we need to put something like, we don't want to make it like brain dead easy, but we want to make it like somewhat difficult. But this isn't like, essentially what I'm getting at is like they might put in something like that ending part, and they might put in something like Act 2, and they're like, okay, Act 2 is going to be the hard part for everybody. The rest of it isn't too crazy. And then you see people messing up on the ending part, and it's like, oh, we didn't expect that. Like it's probably something like that.
It's like they probably were designing Dark and Fire like, yeah, this ain't too bad, we'll give them a freebie here, and then you see how many parties wipe to just that alone.
Yeah, and it's probably like the same thing on 3 too, right? They probably for like Fountains of Fire and Flames of Asphodelos and like the one part where it takes you to like no HP. They're probably like, yeah, this is the hard part of the fight, but we need something else for the rest of the fight. Well, let's just put in an ads phase, and then the ads phase becomes where the hardest part of the fight. It's like, and they're probably like, oh, we didn't expect that.
You all know something funny? I'm thinking back to P1 now, right? About they probably wasn't expecting. Maybe they probably thought Fourfold would be the hardest, but they probably thought that the shackles of the one where it's just one purple and one red wouldn't be too bad, and then they see how many wipes get caused by that because people don't pay attention to their debuffs once again.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm sure that has happened before. I'm sure they put in mechanics that they thought were going to be like generally pretty easy, and they didn't turn out to be easy. So,
but yeah, all in all, though, this was a very fun tier, at least for me personally, because like I said, it's my first time going into Savage, and I was very surprised at me being able to clear the whole tier without having Echo to come into play. So I'm very happy with myself for being able to do that, especially since I don't have as much time to raid as I would like, because I felt like my schedule when it comes to work made it so that I can only raid very late at night, and I was very thankful and very lucky to get the group that I was able to get, because they do 6 hours of raid a week and very late at night, and they were also much better than anything I've ever came across in Party Finder, like leaps and miles. So I was very thankful that I was able to have them to both prog with me and also just help me be able to actually clear the content, right? Because I'm telling you right now, man, I've been so sad if I was just stuck in P3 for like weeks on end. That feels very what's what I'm looking for.
Bad man.
Yeah, it just felt like I would just been defeated. Like, how I would have to just say the tier beat me at that point, man. I would just be like, tier 1, Ether 0, man. I tried my best, but 3 was too much. 3 was too much.
Yeah. I don't know if it was just like the Endwalker hype, or if people were just genuinely more interested in Savage this tier, or like if the fights just seemed more interesting. But I feel like there were a lot of new people that got like their first clears of a Savage tier this tier. I feel like there were a lot more people trying harder to try and get through, even if they weren't good. They there were a lot of people that were trying.
I feel like it was partially because there was a lot of new blood that came into this game during the content drought, because you have people, like the streamers like from WoW came over to hype it up a bit. And then there's also the hype of a new ultimate coming out. So, and how ultimates are, right, is that if you want to do the ultimate, you have to clear the final floor of the Savage tier. So that means if you want to do Dragon Song, you have to get your clear on P4. So I can definitely see that being also another like motivating factor, because it's been a while since we got an ultimate.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably is what it is. But I don't know. There were a lot of people who beat it that hadn't beaten other tiers that I've seen.
Oh, like me.
So. Well, I mean, you were still kind of like newer though in general. I've seen people that have been around for I've seen people that have been around since like Stormblood that hadn't really like gotten into like Savage, like in general. Like either they they did it super casually before, or they just weren't interested. But now they wanted to do Savage, and they beat their first tier now.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
As far as Savage introductions are concerned, I think even though I don't like one, I think one was a good intro floor for people if they wanted to like get into Savage or like try out Savage. I thought it was a very good intro floor.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing kind of some of the mechanics that they would show, like throw at you in a Savage level fight, I can't agree with that. But yeah, I mean, I think the tier was it's okay. I mean, it was more fun for me to prog than it is now. Like I actually don't really like farming most of the fights, but I like prog.
I feel that more so with 3 than any other fight, honestly.
Well, for me, it's 3, 1, and 4. My issue with 4 isn't necessarily the fight, though. It's just the fact that as people have gotten more acclimated with the fight and gotten better geared, the kill times for it are really atrocious now that they were like when nobody had gear or when people were dying like left and right. Right.
Ooh, okay.
So, but mostly it's 3 and 1 for me that are the annoying ones to do over and over again.
I remember you were able to clear in week 1 though. So how many hours did your group do in week 1 for raiding?
I'm trying to think. Actually, I'm always really bad at doing this stuff. I think we did 5 hours a day every day except for Wednesday. We didn't go Wednesday in general because our healer had to go do some real life stuff that day. So we didn't go Wednesday in general. And then I think we did like maybe 6 or 7 hours on Saturday and Sunday. So I don't know how many hours that is. What Tuesday is?
So I would say that's like 2 times 7 is 14, and then you have 4 times 5, which is 20. So I guess that's 34 hours of raid for the week 1.
Yeah, it was like around 30 or something. It was like 30ish, I think.
Oh, that's very impressive. I'm not gonna lie, I thought you was like built insanely different. So I thought your group was just like, I thought your group was just like, oh, y'all did 3 hours a day and just cleared the whole thing. I thought y'all was like really crap.
No, I know some people had beaten it by like, because we beat it that Sunday. I think a lot of groups started beating it around like Friday or Saturday, and then you had like, I feel like, you know, the stragglers for week 1, because I think we would have beaten it Saturday if we could have gone Wednesday, but since we had to skip Wednesday, like we just didn't have that day in general. So because I remember we had beaten 1, I think we had beaten 1 and 2 on Tuesday. I think we beat both of those fights on Tuesday, and then we went straight into 3 on Thursday, and I think 3 was like, I want to say just Thursday actually. And then I think 4, well, no, it was probably Thursday and Friday. And then Saturday and Sunday was 4, I think. Or like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday was 4. So.
Yeah, it's stuff like that that makes me wonder if I would have the ability to be able to clear, well, not just this tier, but any tier in general, week 1, if I had the schedule to allow for it. Yeah. Like, I think that would be something cool to like try one day if I was ever able to.
It's becoming a lot more common, I feel. Like groups are saying like, hey, we've beaten stuff week 1. Because I remember back then it used to be like, if you beat it week 1, you were pretty much a world prog group. Like Heaven Sword, Stormblood. It was like if you beat it week 1, you were pretty much like a world prog group, or you were going like insane amount of hours. But now I feel like it's a lot more common to beat it week 1, because I feel like, I don't know if people are upping their hours or people just gotten better at the game or what, but it's like it's more of an expectation than it was before, where it was just kind of like you're super good if you're getting it week 1. But yeah, I mean, you can definitely do it. It's mostly just a time thing, honestly.
Yeah, that's what it felt like just looking at it, is that, well, obviously I know y'all are like actually good at the game and it shows because of your logs, but I definitely do felt that whole, you need to have the time in order to be able to kill it that fast, because everyone learns at a different pace compared to other people, etc.,
Sure.
etc.
Yeah. It also helps that there's a lot more, like, since there's a lot more people raiding in general, there's a lot more information about fights
Oh right, yeah,
faster.
more
Be-
strats and
yeah.
more, and like you don't have to go into a blind if you don't want to.
Yeah. So that can help a lot of people get week ones faster too.
Yeah, I know. I
Um,
noticed because I remember what my group did for 2, 3, and P4 phase 1 was that we did them blind for just our first week on them, and then we looked up stuff
mhm.
after.
Yeah.
And I noticed how much faster we were both learning and progressing in the fight when we were able to like look
Mm,
things up prior.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty sure we had, like, I didn't watch too many videos myself, but I'm pretty sure we had like at least like basic outline strats for like every fight going in, because we did an alarm clock like 1 and 2. So like by the time we came home from like work and school and stuff, like there were already people who had beaten those fights. So like we already kind of knew, like we had like notes from streams and stuff on what to do for those fights. And then by the time we got through those on the first day, it's like people were already getting done with 3. So it was like, yeah. Because
Yeah,
we looked,
TPS were built different that
yeah.
day.
Yeah.
The world first day one completion of the whole tier. I was not expecting the whole tier to be completed in a day. Like, cause I remember you
Yeah.
told me, oh, they usually do it in like a week. As far as like world
Hmm.
first concerned, and he was like, oh, they did it in
Yeah.
a whole day. Wow.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying is it's like it's much more common to do week ones now, because like I said before, it used to be like if you cleared it in the first week, you were world progging. Like that was you had a chance at being number one if you cleared it in the first week. But now it's like they finish in like a day, 2, 3 days, something like that, and then everybody else is kind of like finishing week one. So
Right. But man, this was definitely very fun though. I hope to have this much fun or even more for whenever they release the next tier of Savage in 6.2.
yeah,
And
yeah,
hopefully I also either have a lot of fun or maybe by some stroke of both luck or success that I'm actually able to get a clear for upcoming Dragon Song, because
yeah.
we have the live letter for April Fools coming up. And well, I noticed that if you know who Sifa is, the black mage from
Mm,
TPS,
mm,
when he saw the date for that, he made a tweet where he said that on April 12th is going to be when patch 6.1 is going to come out, because he
mm,
said that they always release the patch 11 days after the live letter, like the
mm,
last live letter for the patch. And then he said
yeah,
because they want to give us time to do MSQ before Ultimate, that means that they're going to release Dragon Song on April 26th.
yeah, yeah,
So I think it's
yeah,
very dope that roughly a month we're gonna have Dragon Song, and it's just gonna be very cool to see how the blind day one will go for that, both from the teams that are trying to be world first on it, and just also going into an PF and just seeing if people in PF can figure out the mechs,
yeah.
because if you go, because me, I'm gonna take a day off of work to just go into PF at the hour that the patch drops and just go into a
Mm,
blind minute zero of everyone else just to see what the fight is like.
yeah,
Because I honestly think
yeah,
that moments like that are like the most fun in the game, where everyone is going into a blind and then everyone is both figuring stuff out and sharing whatever information they have. And the world first groups aren't going to be streaming because they don't want people to steal their strats and potentially clear before them, right? So
yeah,
it's just going to be cool
yeah,
to see that blind chaos going on, and then looking at party finders and then seeing if people actually get past that, where they're like, oh, XYZ prog, X, etc., etc.
yeah. I'm very interested in this fight too, not only because it's Thornton, but because this fight is so far off schedule for them. Because this fight has been in development for like 2 years or
Oh right,
something,
yeah, because it
like
got
much longer.
delayed, right?
and
Yeah.
and not only has it been in development for so long, but it's also changed levels, because since it was supposed to be in Shadowbringers before, it was originally meant for the level 80 levels, but now it's for 90. So yeah, like I'm very curious how they're gonna do this one.
Yeah, I would love if they ever did a thing where they talk about what it was like having to design that fight from 80 to 90 because of the delay. So that it'll be dope to see something like that. But yeah, it's a very great time to be a raider in this game, man. Because that's like half of the reason why I started playing this game was that I was like, oh, I want to do the hard content, I want to do the hard fights. They look really fun, And I'm getting what I want. Ultimate's coming out. I'm gonna have fun progging that, going into Party Finder, and just playing because I feel like there's more leeway in Ultimate PF compared to Savage PF, because in Savage PF it's like you see people dying to like the silliest shit of all time, whereas Ultimate PF is like if you see someone die there, you're just like, yeah, it do be like that, don't it?
Yeah.
Like that. At least that's what it was like for me. Like going into PF for both U and UCOG. I see someone die something, I'm just like, yeah, it really do be like that, huh?
Yeah,
I really couldn't even get mad at them because it's like it's Ultimate,
Yeah, I've never done an Ultimate MPF except for I did T at the very beginning because we raided in the evening and I was off work that day, so I went on in the morning like what you're planning to do. And we just it was like me and I think 2 other people from my group who did that, and we went into a PF that morning. But that's the only time I've ever PF'd in Ultimate before. So yeah, I mean it'll be interesting to see though.
But yeah, for sure. We got Ultimate coming, we have Unreal coming, and then we have Savage in 6.2. And then we have another Ultimate coming in the 6.3. So it's like if for some odd reason people don't finish or clear, Ultimate 6.2, they could try the 6.3 one, right?
Yeah, I'm actually curious about that one because I'm wondering if it's gonna be Omega or if they're gonna do the boring triad like Sephiroth, Sophia, and Seraphine.
My guess is that they would do one for Shadowbringers. So I think they would have us fight Hades, Warrior of Light.
That would be kind of crazy, actually.
What else was there for Shadowbringers? And Eden. Yeah, they would have us fight Elidibus, Hades, and Eden.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't know. We'll have to see, I guess.
Yeah, it would be very cool to see. I have big faith in them. Like Grant, I told you before, I started this game in 2017, stopped, came back last year, and they just made things better since I left. So I have all the belief in them. I know you're probably a little jaded because you've been playing for so long, and you're probably just like annoyed at the shit that was happening because of COVID and all that stuff. But
I was actually I was one of the few people who was actually okay with it because I remember when it first got delayed. When I first I've always paid myself. They have myself for life, dog.
Oh man.
I just remember when it first got delayed that I didn't really want to play the game right then and there anyway. I wanted to do other stuff. And that's kind of how it's been like up until now, to be honest, is I just wanted to do other stuff. So I haven't really minded the delays that much. But I know a lot of people were really salty though.
Yeah. But yeah, that was a very good talk about the Savage here, man. It was a lot of fun speaking with you about this, having the the tank and the healer perspective on things, and just seeing how the tier treats us going into Ultimate, right? I already know you're definitely getting your clear. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when for you, man. I swear on everything, you're actually really crafted this game.
I gotta do this one just because it's Sheik Thornton, man. I can't back out.
You say that, but even if it wasn't Thornton, you was still gonna do it.
Yeah, I know, but this one just has that extra vendetta. I gotta do it. I didn't even think they would do this because I know people have been toying with this idea of Thornton and a Heaven Song war one for a really long time, and people were like, we don't really know if Thornton has enough in it, and they had always been doing like the big bads like Bahamut and like Ultima Weapon and Alexander and stuff like that. So, and Thornton was just like an extreme, so a lot of people didn't think that he would get one.
Yeah, that is true, especially since in the preview we also saw Nidhogg was in there. Nidhogg was also an extreme as well.
Nidhogg and Hraesvelgr.
Yeah,
which is
I'm very
interesting
curious
to
about
me.
the Hraesvelgr one because I don't know if he'll be like kind of like a friendly existence, like kind of like how the Phoenix was in UCOB, or if he'll just be like an actual enemy to fight against. Because you definitely did fight against him in the MSQ in Som Ao.
Yeah. And honestly, that's one of the things I'm curious about is because I know they have him there because they just want to do like a double enemy thing. But I'm wondering if they're gonna have us like jumping around like they had to do in his like dungeon. Because you had to think like he doesn't really have anything that's like
I remember
super
that.
unique to him. He just does like the Ogmorts and stuff. So I don't know. I don't know what they plan to do with him. But yeah, I mean it's gonna be interesting.
But yeah, very amazing times to be had. Very amazing.